Hey, welcome back. I'm the real Jason Duncan. I want to thank you for joining me on this series, What Not to Do as an Entrepreneur, where I, as an entrepreneur, have succeeded and failed so that you don't have to fail, you only can succeed. I can show you what not to do, the mistakes to avoid, so that as you build, scale, and enjoy your business, you can figure out how to actually enjoy it and exit it if you want to. One of the central things that I teach as a coach is how to exit without exiting. And that's what I've done with at least one of my businesses, where I was able to structure the business where it doesn't require my personal presence every day and to still get the benefits of that business, tax, money, all the other things that you get as a benefit being a business owner. Well, so in this little video series, what I'm doing is you and I are having a drink, two entrepreneurs talking across the table, and we're going to talk about what not to do as an entrepreneur. And one of the things that you don't want to do, the title of this video probably caught your attention, which is why you tuned in. It's don't make too much money. You know me, but this part of the story you may not know. Of course, I was an unemployed school teacher when I started my first that turned into a multi-million-dollar company. And I went from unemployed school teacher to millionaire over the course of several years, building a business, failing, succeeding, succeeding more than I failed. And but back in the day, when I was a school teacher, I was only making at most $40,000 a year. Prior to that, I was in ministry for about 13 years and wasn't making much more money than that as a minister. And I had some success in sales, selling life and health insurance, and I'd done okay, but I'd never cracked six figures ever in my life. And then when I started my company, I remember what that felt like to crack six figures and then higher and higher and higher. And I remember the first time I ran into it was a friend of mine, actually. We had met through entrepreneur circles. He was the first person that I ever met that I knew. Now, I'd probably met other people that had done this, but I didn't know about him, but made $1 million in personal income per year through business ownership. And I was blown away at that. I was like, wow, that is a lot of money. And if you think about the highest tax bracket in the United States, you know, at the time, I think it was like 35, 37%. Depending on when you watch the video, and of course it fluctuates with every presidential administration and the laws that are passed by Congress on tax rates. But that's a lot of money. I mean, that could be at 35%, $350,000 out of $1 million that would be sent to the government. And I realize, you know, somebody here watching this is gonna end up putting in the comments, well, it's only 35% of the top such and such percentage of your income. I get it, but my point's still valid, right? The guy who made $1 million in personal income didn't make $1 million in personal income according to the way it is recorded by the IRS. So as an entrepreneur, what you've got to understand is that if you make too much money, you are going to open yourself up to more and more taxes. The last video I did in this series was called Don't Pay Taxes, and you need to really go back and watch that to understand what I mean by not paying taxes. But this video really is kind of follow up to that, and it's kind of a companion to that video, because as an entrepreneur, you are in a unique position as a business owner to ethically, morally, legally, and reasonably and responsibly hide income. And I'm not talking about illegally where you're cooking books or taking cash payments and not reporting it. That's not what I'm talking about. Please don't hit me in the comments about that, because I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is how you can legally, morally, ethically, by the tax code and be reasonable about it, how you can hide income, hide the way you make the money. And again, it's not hide and go seek. This is not doing anything illegal. Please hear me out. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you've got things that you can do with your revenue and income that other people with W-2 employees simply cannot. You know, that's why I don't think I'll ever be an employee. I know I will never be an employee ever again in my life. And you're probably kind of in the same mindset. I'd be a terrible employee, first of all, but I also know that now I know what it's like to own a business. I don't ever want to go back to that. Now I've got employees who work for me, and I need employees. The world needs employees and entrepreneurs. You can't have all of one or the other. You gotta have a mixture. I happen to be one of those that wants to be the entrepreneur. I want to be the business owner, because there are certain things you can do. So let's go back to my friend who makes $1 million a year in personal income. Sure, on a distribution list or a salary list inside his company, it may say, let's call him John. We'll say that John got $1 million in personal income distributions through owner compensation, guaranteed payments, however you want to call it in the books, however your bookkeeper decides to do that, or your accountant or controller. That is what he actually got to take home. but the way that expenses are done, he actually might show a much lower taxable income that he only pays taxes on a small amount. Let's say, for example, he was able to write off or show expenses on half of that. So let's say $500,000. That means that $500,000 of that personal income that he got to spend on him and his family, he didn't have to pay income taxes on. Now you understand that. You're an entrepreneur. Now your buddy who's not an entrepreneur, the guy who thinks all business owners are filthy rich, won't ever understand this, and that's okay. This is not for them. This is for you. This is for somebody just like you who wants to build a business and understand, how do I make a lot of money but not too much money? And what we mean by that is, I want you to make $1 million a year. I want you to make $2-3 million a year. I want you to make 15, whatever you can get. If you provide enough value to the universe and the universe gives back that value in the terms of money. Like you provide a product or service to your customers and they give you money, as long as that's a fair exchange, make 15 million, whatever, right? But don't make too much. Now what's too much mean? Well, too much is anything that you have to pay taxes on. That's too much. Like there are ways that you can structure everything that you make as an entrepreneur so that you don't make too much money and you don't have to pay taxes. And again, I'm talking, I feel like a broken record. I've said it so many times. I'm talking about ethically, morally, legally, and reasonably. I'll just give you one example. If you and your family are, let's use the vacation thing. A lot of people talk about, I want to write off my vacation. Well, most people, you do, but most people don't understand that. So let's you and I talk about what that looks like. All right, if I'm going to go on vacation with my wife, and we're going to go to Florida for whatever reason, and I've got my RV, and we're going to take my RV down to Florida, and I'm going to be doing business while I'm on vacation. So I'm going to be taking business meetings, I'm going to be doing business calls, I might even be doing an event or a gathering, but you know, a portion of the time I'm hanging out at the beach, riding my motorcycle, doing whatever it is that I do while I'm in Florida, and a portion of the time I'm actually working. There is a tax law, there is a code in the code that says you can write off a certain portion of that trip for business expenses. So when I say don't make too much money, here's what that would look like. If you didn't write any of that off, if you said, well, we're going to Florida, yeah, I'm going to be working, yes, I'm going to be doing these meetups, yes, I'm going to be doing all that stuff, but you don't expense it through the company the right way, and let's say you took home $10,000 that month, and you took a portion of the $10,000 that you took home and you paid for that vacation, that's making too much money. You made too much money that month. What do you mean I made too much money, Jason? I only brought home $10,000. That's not a lot of money. I want to make 10 times that. I get it. But in that case, you made too much money. Because what you should have done is you said, out of the $10,000 you were going to take home, you say, you know what? I'm going to use $2,000 of that before I take it into my own personal owner's compensation, and I'm going to pay for the trip, because I can legally, morally, ethically, responsibly, all the things that I've mentioned 100 billion times in this video series, and I'm going to use that $2,000 before I get access to it through the company, and I'm going to pay for my trip. Now you're thinking, well, okay, so there was only $10,000 available for me to take home that owner comp. Now I didn't take home that 2,000 of it, I only took home 8,000 of it. Is that what you're saying? That's exactly what I'm saying. So in that case, you only made $8,000. In that one little instance that I'm giving you an example of, you only made $8,000. So what's the difference? Well, the difference is your tax rate on $2,000. Let's say it's 30%. 30% of $2,000, 600 bucks. You save 600 bucks right there. You didn't make too much money. That's what I mean. Don't make too much money. It's great for you to say, my business brought in $10 million this year, and I took home $3 million as the owner. Okay, that's fantastic. But if you really actually took home $3 million without any expenses against that $3 million, that was dumb. You made too much money. You're gonna end up giving the government $1 million of that money because you didn't structure it right, because you paid too much taxes. You paid too many taxes. So if you want to know what not to do as an entrepreneur, don't make too much money. How do you not make too much money? Well, the stupid way is by absolutely not making any money, right? It's like, I'm not going to do any revenue. I don't want to take that project because that'll put us over a threshold. No, make all the money as a company as possible, as much revenue as you possibly can bring in, and then properly expense that money as the owner the way that you can. Ethically, morally, responsibly, legally, all the things I've said. There are legal ways to do it. How do you figure out how to do the legal ways? Follow good CPAs that understand entrepreneurs, that understand business ownership. There are a bazillion CPAs on planet Earth, and wherever you live, whatever state, there's a bazillion entrepreneur or CPAs rather. But I would bet you less than 5% understand business ownership and the tax implications. You got and I don't want to mention the names of the famous tax prep companies, but you know who they are. You start seeing them every March. February, March, because they're getting ready for tax day. But there's one that has a square in their logo. There's another one that has a person's name in the logo. And they're accountants for sure. And they have a service that they provide, but they're providing them to W-2 employees. They're not providing them to you. And you're thinking, well, no duh, Jason, I understand that. I don't need anybody. I'm never going to go to those two companies. Okay, but what about your CPA? What about the one you hired? Does he or she know any more than they do? Probably, or he wouldn't have their own firm. But do they really know any more about business taxes, deductions? I'll give you one example about not making too much money, and then I'm gonna sign off for this video. One of the companies that I own is in the energy space, energy efficiency, and there's this part of the tax code under Section 179. Under Part D of that tax code. Now, this doesn't apply to every entrepreneur, but it happened to apply to me. And it allowed for the contractor on any job that provided energy efficiency. It actually was, 179D was the tax code portion, but it was based on EPAC 2005, passed by the Bush administration as a law. But the way it worked is that if a contractor worked on a publicly owned building that did energy efficiency, there was a significant deduction, not credit, but there's a difference between credits and deductions. There was a significant deduction in the amount, in the revenue that could be credited as a result of doing that project. So if I did a project, and it was based on square footage, so if I did 1 million square foot on a single project, I could qualify for as much as $600,000 of a deduction off the revenue for my company. You heard that right. So if the company made $1 million in revenue, but I did that project, I could take $600,000, deduct it right off my revenue. So as far as the IRS is concerned, the company only made 400 grand, right? 1 million minus 600 is only $400,000 left, right? Here's what that means. As a closely held LLC, single owner LLC, all of that deduction flows through to me as the owner. I didn't know that early on as an entrepreneur. I didn't understand that. And somebody somewhere through a YouTube video just like what you're watching today, I was able to learn that little trick saved me millions of dollars in taxes. Which, if I'm not sending it to IRS, guess what I get to do with it? I get to spend it on reinvestment into my company. I get to give it away to the charities that I support. I get to bring it home for my family to do things like pay for college for my kids, or buy a new car, or build a new house. Whatever it is that I want to do, that's now the money that I earned, I get to spend and put back into the economy to support all those things, because everything I just mentioned gets to support more people. So there are some haters out there that will say, well, you're just a cheating capitalist entrepreneur. You just want to, you should pay more in taxes because, okay, why? What does paying more in taxes, what does making too much money help me with? What does it help society with? Well, it gives money to the government. Guess what the government's going to do? They're going to do government programs. They're going to getting people excited and addicted to what the government can provide in the way of handouts and government programs. Now, that's not the only thing. And again, I'm being a little bit more hyperbolic, using hyperbole here than reality. But the deal is, what about the money that I now don't pay taxes on, I get to bring home? I'm not just putting it in a sock under my bed. I'm pushing it back into the economy. And if I give it to directly to a charity that helps the community, that's better than what the government might do. If I go spend it on a new car, you may say, well, that's just for your own benefit. Yeah, but guess what? That car manufacturer, those salespeople, those service people, the people that work at the dealership, all are supported because we go buy new cars. What if I build a new house? Well, the lumber industry, the trades industry, the plumbers, the electricians, the ditch diggers, the excavators, they all get supported because I put money back into our economy. That's why you shouldn't make too much money as an entrepreneur, because you want to put it back into the economy. If you make too much money on paper, you got to give it all to the government. And between you and me and the fence post here and the glass of bourbon, I don't trust what the government's going to do with it, generally speaking. I'm the real Jason Duncan, and my mission is to help people just like you get the results you want out of your business. I mainly want to help you live your ideal life. What is it that you want as an entrepreneur? I want to help you get there. And if there's something I can do to help you get there, you let me know. I'm the real Jason Duncan. See you next time.